Hi guys, FrostFangs here, back again with another video, 3:30 in the morning, because the PTS came up, like, right in the middle of the night. We're going to be doing a first look and overview of Lilith. You should have been expecting this video if you've been following the channel. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Her tagline is the Heartless. She is a support. Her name is Lilith, of course, and she has 750 HP, which will make sense in a minute when we go through her kit. Her voice lines sound like this.
What's yours is mine.
To the charnel house! Wings of death!
You know me. I'm such a pain in the neck.
And I think the voice lines and everything fit very well to the sort of aesthetic. She's got a very unique sort of look for Paladins. I'm digging it quite a lot, just in case it wasn't obvious from, you seeing my other videos. But yeah, again, just to remind you, this is the test server, so stuff is somewhat likely to change, and a lot of these text boxes and stuff aren't final. Some of them don't even have anything written there, but we'll go through her base hit. Yeah, you shoot a charged bolt from your cube, you have 4 ammo, and you deal 625 a shot. It seemed pretty quick. You can make it even faster at the cost of reducing the ammo with a card, which I'll obviously go through in a minute. And then her passive, which is attached onto this, but realistically doesn't really link to the life click at all, is essentially your extra health pool, sort of similar to Torvald, but at the same time very different. Your abilities cost health to cast and have a pretty short cooldown, Swarm and Deathwings. The Blood Hex doesn't though, according to this, which is sort of a mark ability, you'll see in a minute. Doesn't mention it there, but the way you get that health is from dealing damage and healing your allies. She is very, very much engineered seemingly to be a hybrid character, and you can push her in either direction, damage or healing, but by default she seems to sit somewhere in the middle. Then Blood Hex is a very straightforward ability. It's a mark. You can mark a friendly or an enemy, and either way you get self-heal from using your right click. I don't know exactly how much it is, it doesn't say it there. Moving on to her Q, costs 750 to cast. I'm not sure exactly how that works just yet because I haven't played her, but yeah, it's essentially a Damber Gourd. It lasts around 4 seconds and has 3 different states that deal extra healing or extra damage. It's essentially by default a Damber Gourd, and you can modify it quite a bit with the talents and the cards. Then her F, which is a very standard sort of escape, but again, because it costs health to use and has a very short cooldown, it can be used quite a lot, which gives it a very different sort of tone to a lot of the other escapes we've got in the game. You leap into the air, gain extra air control. It's very, very standard stuff, although you can reactivate it, which will slam you into the ground and deal a bit of damage in a small radius. And then finally, the ultimate, which is Blood Moon, which gives everybody 35% pure life rip, which is a really, really big deal. As far as I understand it, it just means that you get the full healing regardless of if you've got Cauterize on you or not. I'm pretty sure it still gets reduced by damage reduction and stuff. It's not just like your pure damage output, because that'd be way too much. If you move faster, you jump higher, and you also regen health during this ult, although they don't put the numbers here, and it lasts for 8 seconds. It also changes how the map looks and everything for the enemy team, and I think your team in an interesting way. The way they described it on the patch notes show was sort of a toned down Mave ultimate. Moving on to her cards, I'll go through these pretty quickly. A lot of them are very simple sort of trade-off cards. A lot of her kit and sort of the way, again, she's been engineered as a hybrid is also similar to how she's been engineered as like a trade-off character, where you go in either direction or you get a benefit for sort of losing a bit, which also seems to synergize with her lore quite a bit, judging from just the trailer, which is pretty interesting. To be honest, they haven't really done, I think, a character like this really ever. But yeah, let's just turbo through them, and I'll point out a few that I thought were interesting. You can reduce the CC people get when they're standing inside your swarm, your Damber Gourd. Then you can reduce the duration but increase the damage and the healing. You can increase the radius or the healing at the cost of it also costing more to cast from your health bar. Then moving on to the Death Wings, you can reduce the cooldown of your Hex when you use your wings. I think this one will be used quite a bit. You can increase the vertical or the lateral movement of your wings, which I think might see some use, but I think the damage reduction one definitely will. 10% for 1 level is pretty good. I don't know if 5% extra per level is worth it, but I think people will run this at least as sort of a filler card. It's really hard to tell though, even after I play a ton, because it's the test server. None of these cards though massively stick out as being, like staple cards, other than possibly the movement speed, which I could see being a really, really common thing. But yeah, I'm talking about the speed buff on her mark, which is very similar to a card Corvus has, which was very popular for quite a while. We've got the reveal for everybody, because it does reveal to just you, but this would reveal it to your whole team. Then you can reduce the cooldown of your F when you've got an enemy marked, or the cooldown of your Q when you've got a friendly marked. This one could also be pretty popular, but it's hard again to tell on the test server. You can increase your blood health, but also reduce your base health, which would leave you, I think, at max level with 125, which is sort of interesting. You can set your ammo to 2 and increase your projectile speed, although it does scale a little bit weird. This is an interesting card. You can gain max health when you hit a marked enemy. I think this will be pretty popular, especially when you take into consideration the playstyle and some of her other talents. And then finally, the one that I missed, you can get a personal shield when you drop below a certain amount of health. A very, very standard Paladins card. Alright, moving on. This video is turning out to be a little bit longer than expected. We've got default Lilith. We've then got Wicked Hex, which is very, very interesting for a recolor. One of my favorite recolors we've had in a hot minute. This one looks fantastic. We've got Sunborn, which is sort of a more human version of Lilith, which is also very, very unique. And then, of course, the golden one, which I don't love, but I also don't particularly dislike. It's just that I don't really like many of the golden skins, to be honest. The weapons we've just seen as well. We've got the emotes, the default one. There you go. And then the Machinations, which I haven't actually seen for myself just yet. Interesting. Feel like that's sort of like a knife flick, but for a character like Lilith, and the default pose which you've seen already, and the transfixed one which I do like quite a bit. I think that's for the season pass, as was the Samborn one, and this is just an exclusive recolor, but I'm not sure how you get it. It's bugged. Alright, let's just keep it moving. Let's jump into the target practice. Didn't mention it at the start of the video, but I really like the sort of theme for everything in this update. I like the sort of evil theme in Paladins. It contrasts really well with a lot of the other aesthetics we've got in the game already. You can see how much Lilith sticks out in some of the other characters, like Sati, for example. It's a good mix. I like it. But yeah, let's go through her talents totally because I wanted to do it here and not because I forgot. We got Cursed Accord, which decreases the damage on your abilities and your in-hand, but also decreases the cost of the abilities and increases your healing to yourself and your friendlies, just pushing it in the direction of more of a standard sort of healer. Here is a look at her, by the way, before we switch through the different talents and stuff. I can't do an inspect because it always bugs. Let me go see if I can fix it. Okay, this explains why my bindings weren't working. Apparently everything is bound just key and then key. So I'm not going to be able to show you the inspect, which is a bit of a shame. If I'm able to fix it by the time I put this video up, I'll cut a section of where I'm talking. But yeah, I guess I'm stuck with the default bindings. Sure, here's her weapon though, you can sort of see it. I just wish I knew what her inspect looked like. But yeah, here is a look at her weapon. It's got an interesting blood effect there on the wall. Very, very, different from what we usually see in Paladins. Pretty slow as a projectile, but doesn't seem to drop off very quickly. We're dealing 470 because of the talent, but I'm dealing pretty much the full 469 all the way back here, and I think she's now out of range, and then it drops off really heavy. So you've got full range up until about here, which is pretty good. Most of the time in Paladins you're going to be fighting at this sort of range, and then really far back you still deal like, what, 50% pretty much? A little bit under that, and then it drops off really sharp again. Guess it'd be better to test it against this Victor, but we're dealing like, what, 150 at this range, which is actually sort of solid. It's going to be kind of hard to hit because obviously it's a projectile, but yeah, her damage is fine, even with the reduced damage talent. Her health meter also looks pretty cool. I'm pretty sure you spawn in with the full amount, so you don't have to worry about genning it, but I haven't tested that just from the target practice, though. It seems like we started with a full amount, and that's what I would assume. We've got the Q, which actually has like a charge up, and then you drop it. Yeah, there you go. Here's a look at the Q. Doesn't last a crazy amount, but it seems like if you drop it straight away, it will deal less damage, which is what it means by the 3 separate steps. I thought it was going to get worse as it goes after it's been cast, but it seems like it's the warm-up. Yeah, it's definitely the warm-up, and it's a really big difference, actually. So if you drop it just really quickly, it will deal like 41 a tick, and then if you hold it and you fully gen it, you'll deal like 94. What if we do it like halfway in the middle? There we go, so that's 79. So most of the time you're going to wait at least until the halfway mark, because instantly casting it, it's not really doing it that much. But it's good that you've got an option, and you can see there what the blood gen looks like. Although it doesn't seem like we're genning anything from our basic hits. Yeah, I really wish I could show the inspect off for the weapon, but we'll cast the Q here on the Nando. That heal is crazy, 207. Again, it does self-heal as well, although it doesn't. I'm assuming that it will self-heal for our base health, but it doesn't fill our own meter, which is interesting because it's showing a little health there on the side of my cursor. A little boost movement ability. Doesn't actually go on cooldown until you hit the floor though, which is something to note, and the cooldown there seemed longer than 2 seconds. We can pop it and then slam into the ground to get it on cooldown a little bit faster, deal a tiny bit of damage. Let me see what that damage actually is, because I don't think it's noted anywhere. So let's go and check out the damage. It is 175, so not even really worth thinking about. So just to answer a couple questions, you don't gen your meter from being out of combat. It will stay at whatever your health is at, and you don't gen it from the left click, but you do gen it from being in spawn. So again, I'm not sure if this is how it'll work when it gets finally released, but it's a little bit janky, at least at the moment. I feel like don't have anything to really add about the F. It's a super standard movement ability. I can imagine people buffing it a bit with the cards to increase some of the movement on it, because right now it doesn't really do that much. You might want to buff especially the lateral movement, because it does feel pretty slow. And then the right click, which I've sort of shown already, will mark the Nando just to see what the healing is like on it. Pretty goddamn hefty, to be honest. We're healing for a beefy amount right there, and it seems to just get higher the longer you've got your mark on somebody. But it starts off at like 173 and then goes up to like 500 a tick. As you can see though, just from right clicking the Nando, he is tanking a Cassie like without problem here. This healing is sort of ridiculous. If you combo that with the Q, even without fully charging it, the healing Nando's got on him from just Lilith, even though it costs health to use these abilities, is ridiculously high. Just to remind you though, this is with the healing talent, so we're dealing less damage, but we are healing for a crazy amount. As you can sort of see if I drop the Q down here, just the Nando is getting like really, really easy heals, and it's not hard to do this at all. The right click doesn't even cost any of your, meter to use. You're still full health. It's just got a 2-second cooldown, and you can only cast one person, obviously. Very interestingly though, the damage goes in the opposite direction and starts at a higher tick and then goes down from a 33 to somewhere around 20. So yeah, we'll go ahead and pop the ultimate and I'll show you the other talents. It's got a pretty interesting animation. You're slow for a little second and then you're a little bit faster than you otherwise would be. Let's hit some left clicks. 470 damage is the same, but I'm pretty sure abilities will actually heal for more and stuff, and obviously we're giving life rip to the team. To me at least, she's a very interesting mix of different healers with her own little twist. Her Q is sort of a Damper Gourd, her right click is sort of a modified Corvus Mark, and then her ultimate is sort of a modified Ying ultimate in a way, and then her F is, you know, just a standard sort of escape ability. For her other two talents, a Maelstrom of Carnage, you put your swarm on yourself and it moves around with you. It costs a little bit less to use and is also increasing the radius of it. So just to show you what it looks like, you pop Q and it's now an ability, sort of an aura similar to, you know, how a Grover, you know, aura would work. Moving on to the last talent, Murderous Intent, which is the opposite of Curse to Cord, pushing you more in the direction of damage. Your projectile size is decreased, but it now pierces enemies and deals extra damage if it hits multiple, similar to how the old Nando Fireball works, or the current Nando Fireball. There is a look at the damage. It's honestly kind of crazy. If we're going to be completely honest, that's ridiculous. Obviously, because it's a pretty small projectile, it's going to be hard to pull off properly, but if you've got a team who are synergizing with you, you're making the right lineups, the damage on this is going to be pretty damn good. 625 by default is already quite nice, but you stack it through 1 or 2 people, you're dealing like 800, which is just kind of crazy. How much is the actual max amount you can get on that, I wonder? Go ahead and use Sarah's ultimate, pull them all to the middle, and then we'll switch character. Hopefully this doesn't reset the victors. Actually, not sure if it does. We'll grab Lilith and the talent again, doing this for the science. They're all still there, so we can actually test this out. So if you imagine that Sarah's was a different team member and they pull them all together, you do the left click and you're hitting pretty damn hard. To be honest, it is kind of hard to hit multiple because of the projectile size, but we did get an 800 in there. I think if you line this up really, really well, you could quite easily get a couple people in it at least. Although, to be honest, I don't think you necessarily need it because 625 per hit is already pretty damn good. I imagine if you grab the card that reduces your ammo to 2, Death Hands, and then you've got a crazy quick projectile, it might be a bit easier because it would be sort of like a hit scan. Paladin servers there might make that a little bit janky. And yeah, overall, there we go. That was a look at Lilith. A little bit more scuffed than usual, but hopefully it was a good enough demonstration for you. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them down in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, of course, on Lilith down in the comments. I'm pretty sure mine are rather obvious, just from her aesthetic and also her kit. Yeah, I'm really, really excited for her. I'm looking forward to her being in live. She's probably going to be a character that I play quite a bit. Not necessarily a main, because I don't really main characters. I play everybody, but yeah, you get what I mean. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it staying all the way to the end of this video. It ended up being way longer than expected. I'll see you all really, really soon. Thank you again so much for watching. And as always, stay frosty.